you. I am legitimately glad to be here. Thank you. Well, it is a great country. And thank you for saying that. This is our 12th city, and out of 16, and one of the things that I wanted, well, I love you too, thank you. I wanted, if you spend your life experiencing the United States through your phone, which I think all of us do, you really lose track of what it's actually like, and you do. And I do think that part of the lie, part of the plan for the rest of us is to convince us that our country sucks. And that's not true at all. And that's why it's been such a blessing to go coast to coast. 8:30 this morning, I was on the Conestoga River in your state. Beautiful. You could have been anywhere, Montana, New Zealand. It was incredible. And I ran into people in the park where I was looming, not in a threatening way, but wandering around one of your parks. And they said to me, oh my gosh, we just saw Alex Jones wandering in the park. Actually, and they weren't afraid. They were delighted. And they were great people. And that's kind of the point, is that in 12 cities, from East Coast to West Coast to the middle to back to the East Coast, I haven't met a single angry person. I haven't met a single nasty person. I haven't met anybody mistreating anybody else. I met exactly the opposite. I have met the warmest, kindest, most loving, hilarious, eccentric people I've ever met. And those are the people I grew up with. This is the country I remember. And so, no, it's true though. It actually is great. And I've just been reminded of that. So thank you, and thank you for having me. So with that said, and I've been in a good mood, despite being away from my wife and dogs. I've been in a good mood every day for the last 21 days, really until today when I got back from wandering around one of your parks, and I see this picture of your governor. I actually don't really want to show up in somebody else's state and attack their politicians, because that's not my state or Commonwealth. But I saw a photograph of your governor, Josh Shapiro, standing with a foreign leader signing an artillery shell that is going to kill civilians in a country we're not at war with a grin on his face. And I had a couple of thoughts. I was disgusted by it, actually. I was enraged by it. And here's why. Let me be specific about here's why. The first reason is, I've been driving around Pennsylvania, and actually I've fished here a lot over the course of my life. And so I know the state pretty well. And there are some, it is really one of the prettiest out of 50, maybe the prettiest in spots out of 50. It's ridiculous how pretty it is. But there are some hurting places in this state, actually, where people don't have jobs, where, beautiful buildings in utter disrepair, walking back from dinner last night, people sleeping on the sidewalk, things that we should not put up with in a country with self-respect, and our leaders did that, actually. And so for anybody in charge of anything in this country, and particularly in this state, to be spending time, money, or concern on a foreign country's problems enraged me. It enraged me. How dare you lecture me about problems in some other place, whether it's in Eastern Europe or the Middle East or Central Africa? I don't care. I don't wish any of those people harm at all. I wish everyone well. But for you to spend your time worrying about that and paying for that, when your own state, people in your own state are literally living on the sidewalk, damn you, actually. I mean that. Because a leader's only job is to take care of the people he leads, period. It's not to end global climate change. It's not to defeat Vladimir Putin or anybody else. It's to protect and watch over the people he leads. This is true of any organization, starting with the most basic organization in any society, which is the family. A father's job is to watch over his family. And if his kids are sick, and have drug problems, and he takes off to another country to deal with other people's children in a faraway land, he has abandoned his family. And I don't care what story he tells you about himself and what a great and caring and compassionate person he is, and I don't care how much he attacks you for noticing, he is a bad father and a bad man, because he has violated his sacred duty to his own children. That's why he's here, is to watch over his children. And the same is true for all organizations, whether it's a military unit or the office you work in or the town you live in or the state you reside in or the nation you were born in. The people who run it have one job, and that's to watch out for you because they're your leaders. And when they ignore that, they are evil, period. They're not misguided. There's no way that someone who lives in this state, particularly who claims to represent this state, was born in this state. I'm one of you, I'm from Pennsylvania. You don't notice that you take a city like the one I woke up in this morning where my wife went to grade school, and it's a beautiful city built over centuries by hardworking immigrants, by the way. German mostly, but probably from lots of other places, and they spent hundreds of years making this a great city. And I walked through it this morning on the way to the park, and the streets are covered in garbage and broken needles. And it's like, you don't notice that? Really, Josh Shapiro? You don't notice that? How can you not notice that? There's someone sleeping right there, and you're lecturing me about Ukraine? Damn you. There's no concern at all, and where there's no concern, there's no love, actually. Concern grows from love. It's organic, it's easy. You didn't have to read a book about how to love your children. It came naturally to you. They're your children. And by the way, that's enough. I'm one of them. You know, not super well-educated, non-geniuses. We have a lot of dumb parents who are pretty good parents. Not because they learned some theory about parenting from the Harvard School of Parenting, but because they love their children. And if you love your children, you may make a mistake here and there. I have. Every parent has. But over time, if your actions are guided by a sincere love for your child, that child's gonna be okay. Because that's all that matters. And so, if over time you totally ignore the material and spiritual condition of your people, if they wind up sleeping on the street and the storefronts are closed and the windows are broken and they can't walk to CVS without getting mugged, and it's physically unclean, that's not an accident. They don't love you, they hate you. That is true. Do not listen. I talk for a living, so I think a lot about this. About words and their use. And I use words, we all do, to communicate with other people. It's what separates us from the animals. It's not the opposable thumb. Whoever thought of that is an idiot. It's language. It's language. It's the ability to be precise about the way we feel and communicate that to another person, to pass on information, to pass on our history. That's what our culture is. It's talking. And that's great. But words are also, if you think about it, a means of deception. They are a vector for lying. How do the lies reach you? Because they come out of somebody's mouth. So if you're in my business and you think a lot about language and you're around people who are lying for a living, after a while, you lose faith in it. You do. And after a while, at least if you're me, you decide, I'm gonna be a lot more like my dog. My dog is not a fluent English speaker. Genius, but doesn't speak English. And yet my dog and your dog and everyone's dog knows exactly what's up. They can't hear a word you say, they only watch you. And when you move over and pick up the bowl, it's dinner time. You didn't tell them that, they're watching what you do. And I've decided that's a much more accurate way to judge intent. You can say, well, I have a plan because I'm so compassionate. I really care about you and all your communities. First of all, anyone who uses the word community is lying to you. Because there's no such thing as a community. There are only people, actually, with names and fingerprints. They're only individuals. No woman ever gave birth to a community. There's no such thing. Talking about communities is a way of ignoring actual people. Really, name 3 people in the community. What are their middle names? Who are their moms? Do you know their moms? You don't know anything about the community. Community is a way to make your responsibility more diffuse and less specific. I don't want to hear about a community. How about that guy? He's on fentanyl. There's a spreading puddle of urine in front of him. That's an American citizen. That's someone you're supposed to love. Your job is to love that person, and you're doing nothing for that person because you're lecturing me about the community is the truth. And I'm sorry to say it, I drive into this town. I've been coming to Reading, not very often, but like once every 4 or 5 years. It's like, you know, your college roommate's kids, they grow so fast, you know, because you don't see them that much. So I come to Reading like sporadically, but pretty consistently over like 40 years now. Not better. It's a beautiful town, actually. It's a beautiful town. Like someone spent a lot of time building Reading, Pennsylvania. It's super obvious as you drive in. It's not a bunch of dollar stores. No, there are a bunch of big, substantial brick buildings built over 100 years by people who cared. And to see a town like that dying from lack of care, from lack of love, but it's not just Josh Shapiro, trust me, it's a whole line, it's decades of politicians who didn't love you. That enrages me. And then to see him direct his love toward a foreign leader and a foreign population that he knows nothing about. He doesn't speak Ukrainian. What do you know about Ukraine, Josh Shapiro? No, it's a way for his friends to get rich and him to puff himself up like some sort of fake world leader and seem like he cares. He's got bigger concerns in mind. Geopolitical, you may not know that word. Geopolitical. Trust me, Josh Shapiro has no freaking idea what that word means. But more to the point, Josh Shapiro's only job is to protect and enhance the lives of people in Reading and Pottstown and every other town in this state, including, and I'm just gonna say it, and you're gonna jeer me, including Philadelphia. I know. Boo, Philadelphia, I get it. But Philadelphia, whatever else that you could say about it, is filled with American citizens. American citizens, your brothers and sisters in your common Americanness, fellow citizens. Yeah, right there. And my nephew from Philadelphia, my brother-in-law from Philadelphia, right now here, great people. And how is that city doing? I mean, it's a reliable source of political power for creeps like Josh Shapiro, because it's easy to rig it in Philadelphia. And that's what we spend all our time talking about, but what we never talk about is the zombies walking under public transportation there. And they're not zombies, actually. They're Americans with names, and they're dying, and he doesn't care. And giving them a safe place to shoot up is not love, it's hate. That's hate. I don't care what they call it. And that's what I mean about language. They can dress up hate as love. Oh, that's love, it's compassion, it's caring, it's harm reduction. Really? Your kid comes home and is like, I'm a junkie. You're like, well, here's some needles. I'm gonna give you some time in your room to shoot fentanyl. What? You're gonna chain him to the freaking radiator until he gets better. Of course, or do whatever you can to get that child off a drug that can and will kill him. You would never make it easier for your kid to kill himself. And that's exactly what they're doing. And then they're lecturing you about harm reduction. You're evil, actually. That's how I feel when I hear that, having lost a lot of people I love to drugs. I bet there's not one person in this room who doesn't know someone who's died from drugs. You think Josh Shapiro stays up late worrying about that? No, he stays up late worrying that Ukraine doesn't have enough weapons of mass destruction to win some unwinnable war. You're evil if that's your concern. So the only way you judge people is by the effects of what they do. You judge the tree by the fruit. And you can say, well, I'm a lemon tree. I'm a lemon tree. Bright orange, tart, but delicious with Diet Coke. I'm a lemon tree. Really? Because those are pomegranates, honey. Those aren't lemons. You're lying. You are not a lemon tree. Those are pomegranates. I know, because there's the fruit. You can tell me you care about the people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but they're dying of drug ODs, and you're doing nothing other than sending more weapons of mass destruction to some creepy guy in a tracksuit. And that's the other thing that enraged me, and I didn't expect to give a speech like this because I'm really trying to cool the temperature and remind all of us that we're all Americans and we all have something in common. But But it just spun me up so completely watching that grinning ghoul with that other grinning ghoul signing an artillery shell. He's never seen one go off. I have. And anybody who takes delight in the death of civilians is a freak. That's just a fact. And there's something forbidden about saying that, particularly if you're on the right. I've been on the right my whole life. I've never been on the left. I've never been some freaky liberal, okay? Ever. And I never will be. So I think I have the authority to say, if you take delight in the suffering of other human beings, you're evil. And I mean that. That's what my religion tells me. That's what common sense tells me. That's disgusting. That's disgusting. And yet they do. Because the truth is they're violence worshipers, actually. They're they are. And how do you know that? By what they do? Not what they say. Oh, it's all about freedom and compassion. Really? An entire generation of Ukrainians has been killed in a war they literally can't win. And they get off on it. They love it. They love violence. That's why every federal agency with guns, they've taken over. No, they love it. And why do they love it? Because it makes them feel like God. That's why. Because the one power that God possesses that we do not possess is the power to create and end life. You can kill in self-defense. We can argue about what the self-defense is. I mean, that's, it's a whole conversation, which is a legitimate conversation. But what we know we can't do because we are not God is murder people because they're in the way. Or murder people to get rich. You can't be Dick Cheney, actually. Sorry, it's not allowed.
A lot of people seem to have been reaching the same conclusion recently, which is that being a little healthier, being spiritually grounded, eating right, paying attention to nature, all of those really matter. Sleep takes up a big portion of your day, like 1/3 of your life is spent asleep, and sleeping well makes you much happier and more productive. So you shouldn't be surprised that some of the products that we've been looking at to think about entering into partnerships with are based on sleep, and we've got one we really like. It's called Cozy Earth. Cozy Earth makes, among other things, bamboo sheets. Bamboo sheets? Well, we tried them, and they're awesome. Bamboo sheets are really soft and breathable, and they keep you cool all night long, and they get even softer with every wash. You got to try it. And they don't just make sheets, they do pajamas and robes, leisure wear, bath towels. They make a whole bunch of stuff out of bamboo. And it's cool. It's not just this weird, oh, it's bamboo. Actually, it's great. Try it. They make great gifts. At Cozy Earth, the quality is backed up by a 10-year warranty. They offer even a 100-night sleep trial. 100 nights. Didn't take us 100 nights to get into it, but try it for yourself. So make your life more comfortable. Head over to CozyEarth.com/Tucker and use the promo code Tucker for up to 40% off. You will feel the difference. CozyEarth.com/Tucker and use the promo code Tucker for a big discount.
And so when Dick Cheney and his creepy, freaky little daughter joined the Kamala Harris for president campaign, everyone's like, oh, that's so shocking. I can't quite believe that. No. All the people who worship violence are now on the same side. Yeah, it's disgusting. And you may not have thought about how disgusting it is because the one thing they're good at, the only thing, their unique talent, is not building anything. It's not creating anything. When was the last time someone built something beautiful and useful in Reading? When was the last time one of your leaders was like, we're going to make it better in Reading? No, it's been a long time. Josh Shapiro hasn't done it. But the one thing they are good at is seizing the moral high ground. Immediately. No matter what they're doing, whether it's giving drugs to junkies, crack pipes to crackheads, abetting the largest example of human trafficking in the history of the West, which is what they're doing right now, is they move 15 million people illegally into our country from around the world. The girls get sold off to coyotes. They did that. They're human traffickers at scale. No, that's just a fact. By the way, that's not a crackpot opinion. That's just true. And yet they turn to you, every person in this room, the people with useful jobs, the kind of jobs that actually are essential. And they're like, you're just bad people. Really? Oh, you're bad people? Really? There was an analysis done, Bobby Kennedy told me this, and I checked it, and it's true. In the last election, Biden voters own 70% of the wealth in the United States, and Trump voters own 30%. And I thought to myself, on the one hand, it's like, okay, the Republican Party is now the party of working class people, great. But then I thought, how did they get 70% of the wealth? They don't do anything, actually. They have no skills. There's nothing they do that we really need. In fact, most of it's bad. I mean, ask yourself, if your average Biden voter somehow like got pulled out of the workforce, would you be okay? No, I'm really. Like, how long do you think this country could survive without private equity? A week? Before we all just starve to death. How long could you and your family make it without a DEI consultant on site? No, I'm serious. Could you get to Halloween? Or would one of your little children stare up at you with doe eyes and say, Mommy, I need a DEI consultant, I need it now. I need it now. Honestly, I need a school counselor or some heavy-set nurse to convince me to go trans. I need that. Honestly, I need Tim Walz talking to me about my sex life in high school. Really, I need a creep like Tim Walz. No, I do, I need it bad. Yeah, that guy's not creepy, okay. Let your instincts be your guide on that one, let me just say. As I always would tell my children, if someone seems creepy, he is. Am I indicting him for the crime? Nope, I don't have any evidence, I don't need any. That guy's a creep, sorry. Chances my dogs would bark at Tim Walz if he came over to my house, 100%. Oh yeah, they would. They'd back him into a corner. I'd be like, stop that, and they wouldn't stop, because they know. But the point is, that entire, not just political party, but class of people has created an entire economy and credentialing system to reward themselves with money and power that is not deserved. That's exactly the truth. I don't like to swear, but the phrase bullshit jobs is a real thing. Those are all bullshit jobs, every single one of them. And yet they're lecturing people who, I don't know, plumb your house, keep you from getting murdered, put out the fires when they start, rescue you after a car crash on the highway, build the building you live in, pave the road you drive on, grow the food you eat. Those are the deplorables? Really? Good luck when the power goes out, honey. You can call your average college administrator to save you. So I guess all I would say, and I will stop at this, do not, write this on a note, post it to your fridge. Do not allow the worst and most useless people this country has ever produced, who've added nothing of beauty or value, never fought a war to keep you free, never done anything for you. They just sat and watched as your communities died and laughed and got richer. Do not let those people, for 1 second, occupy the moral high ground. They're all Tim Walz. They are. They're guilty, and they know they're guilty. That's why they're hysterical. When you see Kamala Harris, before she fully gets control of herself, you can see that glint of fear in her eyes. She has no idea what she's doing. She has no idea how she got here. She's never done anything in her life, and somehow she's the Democratic nominee. She could be elected president. And for 1 second, because the camera does tell the truth until people pull themselves together, for 1 second, you can see Kamala Harris in total panic. I'm Montel Williams' side piece. What am I doing here? That's how they all feel. They know how inadequate they are. They know how guilty they are. They know how Jeffrey Epstein died, and they're terrified that you will find out. So do not let them give you a lecture about anything. They are not your moral superiors. They're your moral inferiors. They are lucky you let them live here. And never forget that. So with that, I want to invite on a friend of mine. Thank you so much. Sorry, I kind of lost control. I wanted to give a speech about healing, but I was so mad about Reading that I just lost it. I lost it. So, Jack Posobiec is actually from this area. He's so from this area. I just met his entire family, numbered in the hundreds. All awesome people, and he and I have talked about this because I actually am interested in Pennsylvania specifically. one of the oldest states. It was our capital. Like, it's an amazing place with an amazing history. And we've talked a lot about what's happened to it. And we've also talked a lot about Kamala Harris's latest surrogate, Zelensky. And so I thought it would be fun and interesting to bring him out. Jack Posobiec, a man I respect and like personally. Here he is.
Can everyone join me in giving Tucker Carlson a warm Pennsylvania welcome tonight?
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. You and I have talked, in private a lot about what's happened to the state, but I just have to ask you, since I'm so spun up, and I'll shut up and let you describe your views, which are more interesting than mine. But Zelensky, last I checked, was like a foreign leader from a foreign country, and he flies over to the United States on U.S. military aircraft at your expense that could be going to the guy dying right outside this building of a fentanyl OD. And he shows up in Pennsylvania, the key swing state in the closest presidential election of my lifetime, to stump for Kamala Harris and Democrats in this state. Am I misreading what's happening here?
Tucker, the only thing that I would add is that none of this is happening by chance. We didn't lose our homes, we didn't lose our towns, we didn't lose our economy, we didn't lose our cities like the great city of Philadelphia, and it was a great city, and it will be a great city again. We didn't lose it by chance, it was taken from us.
It certainly was. In the name of compassion, it was. But I'm just you're a military officer, intel guy, you have a big foreign policy background, you've been around the world. Is it weird, I'm just stuck on this, and I'll stop after this, but is it weird to have a foreign leader whose salary we're paying, whose country we're supporting, we're paying the retirement benefits of Ukrainian civil servants when our people are really hurting? Is it weird to have that? Is he allowed to stump for Kamala Harris? And what about all the freaking Republicans who voted to fund this ghoul? What are they saying about this?
So here's how it works, right? So why does Reading look the way that it does? Why does Montgomery County? And by the way, if anyone's here from Norristown, Pennsylvania, I'm from Norristown, Pennsylvania, born and raised, 1400 block of Norristown, Pennsylvania, Powell Street. Every single school that I've gone to since before college has been shut down. The hospital that I was born in has been demolished. My high school is currently in the process of being demolished. And you wanna know where all that money went? You wanna know where all that economic opportunity went? Well, it's gone to places like Shanghai, and then now it's gone to places like Iraq, and then it went to places like Afghanistan, and now it's being sent to Ukraine to kill people, to kill Christians in a war that has nothing to do with us, that has nothing to do with the people in this room. And every single person in this room, by the way, is paying the cost. You're paying the cost of it in, number one, in terms of money, and then number two, if this thing continues and goes even further the way they want it to, you'll pay the cost in blood. And I'll tell you this, when you look at little Josh Shapiro, by the way, it's amazing how Josh Shapiro had to wear the big lifts to make sure that he was a little taller than Zelensky, because it's true, because they're actually the same height. If you put Zelensky on Josh Shapiro's shoulders, they'd still both be looking up at Barron.
That's quite an image, I gotta be honest.
The memesters will be hard at work. But what's really going on, Tucker, is go look at not just Zelensky in that video, go look at Josh Shapiro. I've never seen Josh Shapiro, and I've known the guy for 18 years. I've never seen him more excited or giddy or gleeful as he was in that picture, sending the money and the war and the bombs and the violence abroad. And when you look at a guy like that, when you look at a guy who presided over turning my great hometown of Norristown into a killing zone, who presides currently over Philadelphia, which is a killing zone, and is now going off and participating in the killing that's going on in Ukraine. You talked about religion, Tucker, and I just look at it and I say, this guy does not serve God, he serves death.
Well, I mean, kind of by definition, I mean, without even getting the whole Ukraine thing, I'll just bottom line it and tell you, if you don't already know, you've been lied to. There was never a chance that Ukraine was going to beat Russia, whatever you think of it. I don't even have very strong feelings about it because I'm not from there. I'm from the United States, but Russia's 100 million more people. I mean, it was always going to end, as it has, in the deaths of an entire generation of Ukrainians. It's the saddest thing I've ever seen. Zelensky has changed the law, so now foreign companies, Kamala Harris donors, can buy their farmland. There's going to be no Ukraine, thanks to these monsters. And it makes me sad as hell. But it's not so different from what they've done to where you grew up. So if you could just explain the town you grew up in, what it was like, and what it's like now.
So the town I grew up in, Norristown, and it's probably like a lot of the towns here. By the way, I think I'm related to like 50% of the people in the room tonight.
At least.
But my whole family is here. My mom, my dad, my wonderful wife, Tanya, my kids, they're all back here. Hi guys, my cousins, they're all right around here. The whole Posobics are here. By the way, Kamala Harris was talking this morning about, she was like, Scamala Harris was talking about because she is a complete scam, the biggest scam that's ever perpetuated on the American people. And she's now said that she's got the endorsement of the Polish Catholics and the Polish Americans of Pennsylvania. Well, I don't know if we have any Poles in this room, but I'm not going to be voting for Kamala Harris, and none of my family is either. Is anyone in this room going to vote for Kamala Harris?
She really said I'm no expert.
She said that this morning, that the Polish Americans...
Polish Catholics are the least likely ever to vote for me? Is that what she said?
No, she said all the Polish Americans, and all Poles we pretty much only come in one flavor, Tucker, so it's synonymous with Catholic. She said they're all going to be voting for me, and that's 800,000. And this was up on her Twitter,
I don't think so.
and up on her campaign, and I'm like... And I said, no, I don't think she has a chance of winning Polish Americans, but she's going to speak for us. So the town I grew up in was incredible, and... whatever, people want to think about me or want to say about me, I would trade everything that I have, not my family, but all like the material things that I have, if I could just have my town back. If I could just have my town back. Because to me, to be successful meant moving to a nicer part of my town, or like a bigger house at the other end of the street. Like I didn't have any dreams of like being up on stage with Tucker Carlson or any of this stuff, and it was the kind of town where, my family comes from Poland, as I mentioned, and we've been in Norristown for 100 plus years, and every single member of my family was baptized at the same church until my son, Jack, who's sitting out there. Jack, not too many video games. We had the same church, we pretty much lived in the same block. I grew up in the same house that my father grew up in when he was a little boy, because that's what you did. And the children that I played with were the kids of the children that my father played with and his father before. And your whole world was a couple of blocks. And and everybody knew everybody, and it was good. It wasn't the nicest place in the world. It wasn't the most fantastic. Nobody was ever writing, songs about it or anything, but it was a good place where honest, hardworking people could make a living, could go home and make enough for their families, and then go home and maybe catch an Eagles game after work.
I mean, I think you've described what most people want, actually. Most people don't dream of having helicopters. They dream of living where they grew up with the people they went to high school with, walking distance from their grandparents' graves. That's not too much to ask, is it?
My grandmom lived at the other end of the street, so we could go over to her house to go swimming. The school was within walking distance. It was all right there. And the library was in walking distance, and I used to go down to the library and read a lot. And my mom would let me go by myself when I got a little bit older, but then she stopped letting me go to the library by myself when the homeless people that kept being let in were stabbing each other in there. And this is Montgomery County Public Library, go look it up, that this became a place for transients and vagrants. And then all of a sudden, during the 1990s, Section 8 started coming in, and all the other federal programs started coming in. And then, oh yes, Norristown got turned into a sanctuary city. So after that, we got all the illegals that flooded over, destroyed the healthcare system, because they go where? They go to the emergency room for their healthcare. So I actually wrote a letter to the editor in the paper saying, we shouldn't do this because it's end of the 90s. I don't even know how old I was. And I said, we shouldn't do this because this is going to overload and overwhelm our healthcare system. And as I just mentioned, the hospital that I was born in is now a vacant lot next to a Planned Parenthood clinic. And look, that's whatever. That's my story. But that's not a unique story, Tucker.
No, it's not.
And I'm sure most
now?
of the people in this room either lived through something like this or know people who lived something like this. And what I have come to learn, that it's by politicians like Josh Shapiro and politicians like Joe Biden from Scranton and all the others who have done this to us, Tucker. This was done by design. People were taken for granted. Their lives were destroyed. Their communities were destroyed. And I do not have any explanation for it other than they serve death and they hate the people they're supposed to represent.
You know what strikes me about what you're saying, and it is such a familiar story, particularly in this state, I have noticed, all over the state, east to west, is how fast it happened. I mean, you're not 70 years old, so you're saying you lived multiple generations of your family in the same town, all went to the same church, and then in like 10 years, it's all gone.
It was so fast, and as a kid, it was kind of shocking. And look, my parents when they moved this out, they wanted to keep us safe. It starts with your bike getting stolen, and then your next bike gets stolen, and then your third bike gets stolen. And this was a town where it's idyllic. It's kind of the cliche, but you could leave your door unlocked, and your babysitters were like the girls who lived next door that was a little bit older. And then when you went out to play, mom never said, oh, I'm worried about your, because you knew your neighbors. And so your neighbors would say, oh, okay, yeah, he's here. And, make sure you go home because it's going to be nighttime, and then you go out. And that's how it was. And suddenly within that lifetime, and I know my two boys are like sitting right there, that Jack and AJ, I've never even taken them down the street where I grew up.
Why?
Because I'm worried they would be shot. Because that's how bad the gang violence has gotten there in the time since. The open murders that take place there all the time, the illegals that are selling drugs all over the place. We had like a couple of Jamaicans that were behind us, that were drug dealers, and they would keep Rottweilers out to keep people away, and they kept getting arrested. But then every time they got arrested, they would something strange would happen, Tucker, because they would come back after they got arrested. And so when you're little, you think, oh, well, the cops are the good guys and they can take away the bad guys. And so you wonder, wait a minute, why don't the police just come and get rid of all these bad guys? And wait a minute, I think there's some bad guys over there and some bad guys over here. And suddenly you realize that all of the standards of living and the quality of life and these basic suppositions that you have about the way the social contract is supposed to work actually don't seem to work sometimes. And it turns out the leaders aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, and suddenly the towns are being completely destroyed and you don't understand. And as a kid, you don't understand. And even now, I'm still kind of asking questions, why did that happen? But I did realize one thing, Tucker. And throughout all of whatever I've done, and by the way, I'm, Norristown, I got to give a shout out to Corporalese while I'm up here. Corporalese tomato pie. We'll get Tucker some Corporalese. All right, trust me on this, Tucker, trust me. That's all right, it's Italian, you'll like it. That best tomato pie in the state. That, Pride of Philly, by the way. That it will not stop until it is stopped. It will not stop until people get together and they vote and they take action and they do the ballots and the activity and the work, because every single time something like this is going on around the world, whether it be Russia and the Bolsheviks, whether it be China, whether it be Spain, whether it be France and the French Revolution, all of the insanity continues on until the people of that country, the people of a state, rise up and say, no. Absolutely not. No more. You've gone too far. We will not cross this line anymore, and we are going to stop you. And we're going to find a leader, and even if you try to kill that leader, and even if you try, which, by the way, right in the state, Butler, PA, where they tried to take out Donald Trump on stage, funny how it is that Josh Shapiro doesn't seem interested in that investigation, doesn't seem interested in finding out who fired that bullet or why, and didn't provide the Pennsylvania State Police that he should have that day. We're writing an entire book about this. That, bulletproof, he's got it. That you realize that at some point, Tucker, is it indifference? Is it incompetence? Or is it complicity?
We hear a lot from viewers about big tech censorship, and those reports are more frequent than ever right now. Censorship meaning shutting down your access to information. Not lies or misinformation, but true things. It's only the truth that they censor. Facts that get in the way of the lies they're trying to tell you. The net effect of this, of course, is interfering in the 2024 presidential elections. That's why they're censoring more than ever now, because the stakes are even higher. You're probably not shocked by this, but the specific examples of it do throw you back a little bit. We've seen screenshots and videos showing how a Google search to learn more about the attempted assassination on Donald Trump instead push users to information on Harry Truman or Bob Marley or the Pope. Anything other than the relevant truth, which is that they just shot Trump in the face. They don't want you to know that because it might help Trump. We've seen examples where Facebook marked true photos of a bloodied and defiant Trump as misleading. Somehow those pictures were a lie and then limited their visibility. Its AI assistant explicitly denied the shooting ever took place. This is insanity, but it's at the core of big tech's editorial policy, which is denying the truth to you in order to control the outcome of this presidential election. That's not democracy. We've seen examples where a generic search for information about Donald Trump was automatically rephrased to show positive stories about Kamala Harris instead. Is there any clear example of election interference? So what do you do about it? Well, Parler has been down this road. Parler was pulled right off the internet for telling the truth. But it's back, and it's reaffirmed its lifelong, unwavering commitment to free speech. On Parler, the Bill of Rights lives. The First Amendment is real. You can say what you think because you're a human being and an American citizen and not a slave. On Parler, users can freely express themselves, tell the truth, express their conscience, and connect with others who are doing the same. And they will not be interfered with. They will not be censored. Designed to support a wide range of viewpoints, everyone is welcome on Parler. Parler is committed to ensuring that everybody is heard. And so it's become a place where independent journalism is protected and respected. It's protected because it's respected. So as this censorship by big tech intensifies, standing up for your God-given right as an American to say what you think is essential. We're on Parler. That's why we're on Parler. Our handle is @TuckerCarlson, and we encourage you to join us there. You have the right to say what you believe. So does every American, and you can do it on Parler. Get the Parler app today.
Well, I mean, we don't need to guess, right? I mean, we always would say in the news business, you can't know people's motive. I always would say that. And you try to be humble about what you know and what you don't know. But after a while, you realize you do, because the goal is the result, actually. The goal is the result.
The point of the system is what it does.
The point of the system is what it does. And that is true over time. So if they come in and make changes and your neighborhood goes from a cohesive, beautiful, safe place to a slum in 10 years, they wanted to do that. And if they do that to keep places all over your state, they did that on purpose. Like, I don't think we need to guess, do we? And if you don't investigate attempted murder of a presidential candidate, you're in favor of the murder of a presidential candidate.
Well, I'll tell you something else, and here's the good news. Here's the good news on that front. So they tried to take out Trump once, and we said we're going to write an entire book about it in like a month, which we did. We wrote a snap book about it called Bulletproof. And then they tried to take him out again, a second time, even before we finished that. So we put that part in the second book as well. And that guy, funny enough, Tucker, wouldn't you believe, had just come from overseas. Do you know where the second shooter just came from, Tucker?
Ukraine.
He came from Ukraine, where he was a foreign fighter over there who had received training and then used that training to come here to this country to try to kill the one person who's trying to stop all of the things that we just talked about from happening. And he said, in order to do so, it is morally correct. He said it's morally correct. And then the DOJ this morning puts out a letter from this psychopath from Ukraine that says, even if I can't solve the job, even if I can't get the job done myself, there's a bounty on Trump's head for $150,000. And the DOJ, of course, put this out on purpose. They could have put that under seal. They could have redacted it. How many things has the government redacted, Tucker? They could have redacted that. They didn't.
Well, the Nashville shooting we just got 2 years later.
The Nashville shooting, which they fought tooth and nail to give us the manifesto of, which was like, oh, I hate Christians and I hate white people, so I'm going to kill Christian white people. It's like, oh, wow, what a surprise. I was so shocked. So we find out that, and then on this one, look, Tucker, I don't trust Josh Shapiro. I definitely don't trust Merrick Garland. So what we've decided to do with this, it started as a book. We're launching our own investigation into what went on, and we've hired a private investigative firm, and some of whom are actually in the crowd today, just FYI. And we are going to be expanding that investigation from Bethel Park to Butler, down to West Palm Beach, all the way out to Hawaii. Tucker, we're going to go to Ukraine if we have to. We are going to get to the bottom of what happened. We're calling it the Bulletproof Project, because I just don't trust any of these people. I don't trust any of these people.
Be careful in Ukraine.
I may not go personally again over there, but the one thing that we have learned, Tucker, is this bounty, the $150,000, and I promised people that I would drop some news, so I had the information about the bounty on Friday. We found that out today. I didn't know the Department of Justice would be publicizing the bounty like it's a John Wick movie, right? And they put it out there. Matt Gaetz comes on my show a couple of days ago, and he says there's 5 assassination teams targeting Trump. 5 assassination teams, 3 of which have foreign ties. I think we know one of them already, and then 2 of which are domestic. What people need to understand is the bounty and the 5 assassination teams are tied. It's like they're actually competing for this bounty. Donald Trump's very life is on the line, and every time he goes up to speak now, he has to stand behind what I call leftist glass because they keep trying to kill him.
He's a brave man, I must say, whatever you think of Trump. He doesn't need this. Jack, I really appreciate it. I hope you'll stay right there. I want to bring out our next guest, who... And let me just say, we had a little trouble finding an arena that would take him because he's so controversial. And I'm grateful to where we are right now and to the people of Pennsylvania. But let me just say, can I say one thing about Alex Jones? So Alex Jones is one of those people you're supposed to be very shocked by. Here's the one fact about Alex Jones that I can't get over. Alex Jones predicted 9/11. And he did, think about this for a sec. And he did so on tape. Now, I worked in television my whole life. When you're on TV, there's a timestamp. We don't need to guess. I'm on TV for decades saying super dumb things, which live forever on YouTube. Alex Jones, in the summer of 2001, said, you need to call the White House right now because planes are going to hit the World Trade Center and they're going to blame it on Osama bin Laden. He said that. I've seen the tape. You can look it up. So, no, check this out. So I lived in D.C. at the time. Trust me, I had a daily news show on another channel. Not one person was saying anything like that. So Alex Jones says that. It's on tape. We can prove he said that. It happens. Why didn't the U.S. government call Alex Jones and say, how could you have not? Clearly you're a prophet of some kind. We need you in this global war on terror because clearly you can see things that nobody else can see. That's incredible. Have you even met anybody who's predicted something like that? No, you haven't. Like, I've never met anyone. I met everybody. I've never met anybody who did anything like that. But instead of celebrating Alex Jones for making the most unbelievable call in the history of the news business, they said about the FBI sets about trying to destroy him. And so begins this incredible saga of lies about Alex Jones, which you probably all heard about. I'm not going to relitigate it, but that was the FBI that did that. And they try to bankrupt Alex Jones. They try to put Alex Jones in prison. Why would you put the guy who called that in prison? This guy is clearly on the side of the United States. He's trying to help our country. So that fact, if there's only one thing you know about Alex, everything I said is 100% true, by the way. I'm not guessing about this. This is fact. If there's one thing to know about Alex Jones, it's that. And on the basis of that, I will always believe and I will always say in public that Alex Jones is the most extraordinary person I've ever met. And so I am proud to have him. Not having him here because it's like naughty, ooh, Alex Jones. It's like, no. I'm proud to know Alex Jones. I'm proud to know the person who tried to warn the country about the worst terror attack in our history and was persecuted for it. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones. It's so funny, going back to the point.
That intro was too good.
Well, it's true. It's true.
Tucker's the best, not me. Tucker.
Well, it's true, and it makes me mad, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that the only thing they're good at is seizing the moral high ground, and they try to make you ashamed of the best things about your life, like being married or having normal kids or not castrating your children or whatever, or knowing Alex Jones. They're like, oh, how can you know Alex Jones? And I'm sick of it. And I'm just gonna say that Alex Jones is my friend. There's nothing to be ashamed of there. I'm not ashamed, and you shouldn't be either. They should be ashamed. He called 9/11, and they tried to put him in jail for it. So anyway, thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. I gotta say, I love you. This is a beautiful state full of beautiful people, and when we get President Trump elected, all of us together are gonna lift the curse off of this country, and we're gonna send the globalists to prison. And it is amazing to meet all these great people, and whether they're black, white, old, young, to see the electricity in people's eyes that are populist and that are Americans and that love God and that love children and love freedom and hate tyranny. I can feel the strength in this auditorium at capacity in Reading, Pennsylvania. And like I told the globalist a long time ago, I don't know how all this is going to end, but if they want to fight, they better believe they've got one.
It just makes me laugh. Alex Jones, so controversial. Love God, love America, love freedom. Oh, you're so radical.
And Tucker, Alex, the one thing I always give Alex props for that no one ever gives him credit for, Alex Jones has stood against war for 30 years every single day of his career.
But I'm for the war peacefully with information against the globalists. The real war's here with the globalists and Soros and Obama and the New World Order and BlackRock. They've declared war on us, and we accept the challenge. We're taking the country back.
Amen.
1776. You tell them.
No, you say it.
The answer to 1984 is 1776. 1776. Right, it began right here. 1776. 1776.
You know, Alex, the real, we're only about an hour away from where they did the real 1776.
That's why, exactly.
Bless you for saying that. So what do you think, what is gonna happen in the next 40 days, do you think?
Well, we all know that history repeats and rhymes. And so, just like the kickoff of this country on July 4th, 1776, started an hour away from here, and that's why coming right back, history repeats, the key battleground state again, the second battle to save the republic, the first battle was launched to form the republic, is happening right here in Pennsylvania. And I interviewed you today, an amazing interview, quick interview, you were gracious to give it, in between your busy schedule, and you said, look, I feel confidence in my gut, intellectually, every level. Even if they steal this, it doesn't matter, because the process of awakening is here, and nothing is going to turn that around. So we have the initiative, we've turned the tide, and whether it takes 6 months or 20 years, we're going to evict the globalists out of this country, and we're going to restore the republic. Victory is ours.
I feel that way. So do you feel that the hope that in the end there's victory? Do you really feel that?
barring the globalists starting a nuclear war. But then they'll still get beat in that process. Those of us survive will dig them out of their holes. Their bunkers will be their tombs. But other than them trying to start World War III, which we're very close to, other than end of the world stuff, our trajectory's victory. All over the world, populists are winning. All over the world, the incumbents are getting thrown out. All over the world, I mean, you go to a comment on Instagram where they even try to censor, and Bill Gates does an interview, and there'll be 20 million views, and I'll read for an hour and can't find one person that isn't exposing him. Klaus Schwab had to step down as the head of the WEF. The globalists are hated. They just had their big Davos meeting earlier this year about getting trust back, and I watched the Clinton Foundation with Chelsea up there at her gala going, everyone hates us now more than ever. What do we do? We've got to censor them more, and Hillary crawls out from under a rock. We'll start arresting Americans for their speech. That'll teach them. I'll get you and your little dog too. We have forced them out in the open. They're weak. The mask is off, and now the sleeping giant is awakened.
I mean, that's true, isn't it? That no one you ever meet in real life outside the Atlantic magazine and the Aspen Institute and that Freaky Walls character, no actual person is for any of this.
And nobody's for tampons in boys' bathrooms. But they are, because we talked about this interview today, and of course you're a historian and a journalist, you know about it, but most people don't know about it. Of course this is all deliberate. The CIA in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s funded Ms. Magazine, Gloria Steinem, Planned Parenthood, the whole thing is it's run by the globalists against our country since the 47 National Security Act. And they said in there, we're going to have ugly architecture, ugly art, ugly music. We're going to degrade the family. We're going to undermine the symbol of men being strong in the home. This is all declassified. And they sold that image to demoralize us and break our will. And we were asleep back then and didn't know the government had been hijacked. They thought Americans were intimidated and bullied and weak. No, we were asleep. Now they try to debilitate us. Now they try to demoralize us. Now they try to break our will. And we're conscious of it. And we're like, that's not breaking our will. That's waking us up.
I gotta say that the main change that I've noticed, and maybe it's just me, but I'm from a very, very secular background, like most secular background. I'm literally from Southern California. One person. What are you doing in Redding? It's good to have you.
California used to be a great red state.
It was the best. But the point is, I didn't grow up around religious people at all. I didn't go to the church my grandmother went to at all. I've worked in the media my whole life in a big city up until 5 years ago. And in the last year, I know more people in my secular world who were mentioning God in conversation. And I don't know if you're having this experience. It's very striking to me. Do you notice this?
When we followed God, we had nothing but prosperity and success. When we got rid of God, everything fell apart. I mean, people think Texas is a boom place. It's got the crime, the filth, the Satanism, the degeneracy, the pedophiles. Pennsylvania, gorgeous state, fell apart in 10 years. California, one of the most beautiful places in the world, total deep red. Ronald Reagan, total crap hole now. It's spiritual blight. And people are recognizing that because now they understand we are getting sucked down a vortex into literal hell, and we got to reach back up to God, and God will take us out of this.
Is it, you've been saying that for decades. I've always wondered, I've asked you this like 20 times in private over dinner. I'm proud to say we have dinner. But I ask you this, and you never give me a straight answer, but since there are thousands of people watching, maybe you will now. What's it like to be vindicated on everything?
Well, I mean, it's scary because, I realize that with a lot of power comes a lot of responsibility. And a lot of times with the media, I'll joke around satire-wise, and I'll see it at the cover of the New York Times. And clearly, people aren't seeing the video. I'm saying it's a joke. Like, Jones wants to kill his neighbors. No, I said, if there's a nuclear war and we all collapse, and my kids are starving, I run out of storable food, I will eat the liberal neighbors, not my conservative ones. It's more of a joke. But so when people take what I say so serious, I joke a lot less. I used to joke a lot, but now the show is not. It used to be like half comedy because I like to have fun. So I take it really serious now because I realize they twist everything. So it's a lot of responsibility, but I also wish I was making predictions with the proviso that if you call the White House and tell them don't fly planes to the World Trade Center and then bring in the police state and then invade the Muslim countries to bring them in here, not even go after radical Islam. If you do I was thinking if you call the White House and tell them don't do it, they may not do it. But of course, I have a big enough audience, people didn't believe me, so we couldn't stop them. So I make these predictions about probable futures because I can see all the evidence pointing towards it so that we can stop it. But now the good news with Elon and you and so many others that are fully awake and reaching a lot more people than I ever did, folks are really waking up and their knowledge curve is going parabolic right now. So we're in the driver's seat, but that makes the globalists very dangerous and the empire is going to strike back.
How?
Well, they always love to pre-program it. So Klaus Schwab is, a cyber attack will make COVID look like a minor inconvenience. Kind of in a Russian accent instead of a German one. Of course, you will eat the bugs and you will love it. But these are real quotes. We don't need too many people in the future to polish the robots. These are real quotes. Yuval Noah Harari. Oh, the future's not human. You're just obsolete. We're going to be the gods. I don't believe in God now, he said, but I'll be the God in the clouds. Ray Kurzweil at Google, he says, I don't believe in God yet. I'm going to become a God. But to do that, all you folks who just want to be good, decent people and live a good life and experience God's great creation and love God, you need to be gotten out of the way for the rise of their new uber-mentioned Superman. So we're right back to all of that, and that's why you have the official plan of depopulation by the UN down to 500 million. That's an 80+% reduction. That's official. That was on the Georgia Guidestones in Georgia until somebody blew it up, but nobody got hurt, thank God. So the agenda is your garbage. You're just a consumer. You're like weevils in the pantry eating their flour or something, and you just have to be gotten rid of because you don't fit into their beautiful, magic, wonderful plan. I was watching the Davos group. They have meetings all the time at their World Government Summit about a year ago when Elon came on via video link and he said, listen, people don't want your world government. It centralizes things. It's tyranny. People are rejecting you. We need diversity of countries and sovereignty and peoples, like firewalls in a building or bulkheads in a ship. But in some of the other meetings, they had these globalists up there going, we're just doing something so beautiful, what we're bringing them. I don't know why they're opposing us and don't trust us. Well, because you just want to depopulate us because you're selfish, demonic pigs who love the raw power of destroying people. Because America, for all its faults, was the best house in a bad neighborhood. And the whole world for 200 plus years, but really the last 100, aspired to come here, aspired to have our freedom, and the globalists can't have this country exist and have their horrible global technocracy, slave plantation, AI system in charge if there's a place that's still free and open compared to everywhere else. So we've got to be brought down and used to bring tyranny to the world while we're being destroyed and while we're paying for it. So the whole world turns against us and we collapse. And so the idea of America is discredited so that other people around the world don't ever try to go the path of our republic, which is diametrically opposed to their globalist, satanic death cult. And that's why they're attacking America. It's the idea and the spirit that is incompatible with their global slave state.
The most interesting and newsworthy television show of the year is coming here to TCN. We are not bragging, that's actually true.
The president's been shot. I repeat, the president's been shot.
So our longtime producer Justin Wells and a team have been embedded, with no publicity at all, with Donald Trump on the campaign trail for months. They're the only crew capturing what is going on the campaign in real time, intimately. They're with Trump as he campaigns for the presidency across the country, and they've shot some amazing footage. It shows you what it's really like in there. So if you're a member, you will soon be able to get this docu-series covering the historic campaign, the fall of Joe Biden, never-before-seen footage from the assassination attempt at the Butler Township, Pennsylvania Trump rally, and a lot more. It's going to pull back the curtain completely. They are embedded inside the campaign. I can't wait to see it personally. But to get it first, go to tuckercarlson.com, become a member. The greatest television event of the year, and we're proud to offer it.
I would make fun of you, except every word is true. The thing that I can't get past is to put the destruction of other human beings as a goal
is that's not a human desire. Like, animals don't commit genocide, actually. That's not natural. That's not natural at all. Like, there may be people in your way and you're a bad person and you kill them, but the idea of desiring to kill huge numbers of people, like, that can only be supernatural, it feels like.
And that's what the Bible tells us, is there's an outside force putting powerful people in positions to carry this out, to keep humanity from reaching its potential destiny. And God gave us free will, and so there's the tester there. And so that is the mission and the existence of Satan, whether you believe that's a real thing, as I know it is, or an archetype. Regardless, it's there. And if you read the robber barons 120 years ago and the social Darwinism that came out of it, they wrote books and said, when we do evil, bad things and kill people en masse, we are the apex predator. We're doing them a favor to make them stronger. So it's really just eugenics. But at the end of the day, you study the globalists, they're not just trying to kill the weak and the infirm and the low IQ, which is you're not supposed to do as a human made in the image of God. You're supposed to build up the weak. Christ said, suffer the little children. What you do to the least of me, you've done to me. Better for you to have a millstone tied around your neck, be thrown in the ocean. But the globalists put fluoride in the water for everybody. They hate the smartest and the best and the freest because it competes with them. And so they're trying to stop their competition, those people that love God and have free will, because we're much stronger and more powerful than them, but we don't seek power. And every moment they're thinking, if we wake up and take back control of our destiny, it's over for them. So that's why they hit us with the 5G and the GMO and all the garbage and the glyphosates in their own documents, is to stun us and poison us so that they can dominate us, not because they're strong, but because they're weak.
That's totally right. Well, that's why they've set up the fake economy in the United States. This town was built on manufacturing, men making things with their hands. And that's been replaced by lending money at interest and selling the same piece of ground over and over and over. Real estate. And they hate strength. They hate strong men above all, obviously. I was talking to someone the other day who's not conservative, who said to me off camera, you know, the chemicals in our water, for example, are changing the sex of frogs. And I didn't want to be mean. But I did say, are you telling me they're turning the frogs gay? And this person didn't get the reference at all and goes, yeah, that's basically right. Everything you've said about the chemical poisoning of the human body is now just kind of accepted. Like, is it weird to see science catch up to you?
Well, I mean, look, what happened, and I knew what they were doing. This is like 15 years ago. I did like an hour-long analysis from South African University and a university in Japan, a university of, I think, Rice in Houston, and the University of Berkeley in California, that just a little bit of atrazine would bend the gender of almost all the frogs, sterilize a lot of them, and turn a large portion of them where they would try to have sex with males. It confused them so much in their development as embryos floating around in the creek or pond. And so I did all that science, and then I said, listen, this isn't about hating gay people or something. This is about chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. And I went on to say, and then their populations collapse and they die. And the frogs are a microcosm of us. Well, then within 2 weeks, every late night comedy show, every one of them came out and did a monologue and attacked me. And then it turned out later that they were being directed by major foundations and the CIA. They even later bragged, oh yeah, Chuck E. Schumer, we work with a body with him in a foundation. They actually came to them with a script that said attack Alex Jones, because they went, ignore the hour of serious stuff he talked about, make it a joke. So their joke about frogs made it blow up even bigger in their face. But you have to understand, they know people don't believe the news anymore, at least for 20 years. So it's the nightly comedy shows that are totally written by the globalists, and they give the comedy writers what they want them to do. And so whenever you see them, like, oh, look, the shots are good, we're all getting them, take 10, it all works wonderful, arrest Donald Trump. That's literally the CIA, the Carnegie Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation assaulting you when you're at home drinking a beer trying to watch some comedy. And so that's, people think I predicted. God, he was right. The frogs are all turning gay. And then they're dying, No, it's been known forever. And that's Bertrand Russell. He wrote back in the 60s, he said we ought to have a world government that just drops hydrogen bombs on most of the populations because the too big a population will have wars. So we have to have a controlled nuclear war, and that'll fix it, and create all this. And he also went on to write a bunch of books. You can go pull his quotes up. And so, I mean, listen, they used to have all these top globalists were very honest about it in the 70s. They used to have, like Paul Ehrlich, you can pull this up on Twitter or anywhere, X. Paul Ehrlich goes on a TV show in '79, one of the big Hollywood shows. He goes, listen, we're working with the foundations, and we're going to have every father figure be lazy and stupid and dumb, and that'll break up the family, and then the kids that do live, we'll control them by the state, but everybody else will abort the kids because there's too many people, and we'll all be dead by 1987 at current rates. It's a Malthusian. None of it was true. Like Al Gore saying by 2017, all the ice caps would melt. They're bigger than ever. It's all lies. They know it is. But back then, they were very honest about, he was all over, 60 Minutes, you name it. Oh, yeah. We're going to destroy the family because the family creates people, and too many people's bad. They're public, so almost everything I say is from these dirtbag scumbags. I mean, you go read the World Economic Forum. They say no humans by 2045, only cyborgs. The future's not human. Listen, I remember reading in scientific publications when I was first getting on there 30 years ago, because there's almost no shows like mine then, so I was on a bunch of radio stations, got on a local station, figured out how to syndicate, called a syndicator, said, hey, can I get on? They put me on a bunch of stations. And boom, and then people are sending me stuff. So I had like MIT Quarterly coming to me saying, we've made the first humanized mice that are part mice, part human. We've made the first goats that are part spider that create body armor, but we don't show the public these facilities because it would freak them out too much. That's 30 years ago. Now you hear about the humanized mice that are part human, or salmon that are part grasshopper that grow twice as fast and kill all the real normal salmon. And just, folks, Tucker talks about aliens and absolutely there's stuff going on. The globalists are making aliens by mixing humans and other animals and insects and plants, and then they put them, they gestate them and use cow uteruses to grow them. This is going on everywhere. So there's like a breakaway whole civilization that's separate from us that the globalists have with life extension technologies and cures to cancer and Parkinson's. But instead of giving us all the cures, they're keeping that for themselves, and they're just getting ready to wipe all us out so we don't even have access to that, whether you think of it as moral or not. But they even had, people didn't believe me when I talked about it when I was reading the documents because we weren't on TV then. I'm reading this on air, and people are thinking that they weren't all getting MIT Quarterly. Then MIT, about 7 years ago, look this up, humanoid hybrid chimeras are gestating at facilities across the United States. And it goes on to say, part pig, part human, part cow, part human, so that they won't be rejected by the cows that are growing them. They then harvest the organs, they harvest the stem cells, and they've got facilities now with thousands of cows per facility with humanoids growing in them. And this is in the literature, and they don't like me because I go, here's the literature, but they won't let you on the basis. And let me tell you, with the spider goats 25 years ago, I call up one of the places in New York where they've got goats that are part spider, okay? And their milk makes body armor. And I get the head guy, a private contractor in the Pentagon. He's happy. Like, he comes on. 2 days later, he calls back. He goes, the Pentagon's really mad. They didn't even tell me it was classified. They're going to kill me if you don't take down that interview, okay? So you're hearing all this. Look up spider goats, 30-year-old stuff, okay? All of this, so as good as I tell you stuff is, it's also bad because there's a breakaway civilization that's really in like the year 2045, according to their estimates. They've already got way more advanced AI, everything else, but they can't get full control of the human population yet because in an hour, if we wanted to tear up all the equipment and the AI systems and shut it down, we could. It's not that it's bad in of itself, it's how it's being deployed against us. That's why they've got to get rid of the farms and the ranches and the gardens and people knowing how to build things and do things. They've got to make us obsolete first, and then they're going to release the real bioweapons that kill the majority of people. That's why COVID was just a drill, they admit it was, to get us locked down. So when they release the real bioweapon, you just stay at home and die like you're supposed to. But we're not going to do it. And if they release the big bioweapon, we know who to go after, Bill Gates. We'll get you in your bunker. And Zuckerberg will bring you to justice legally and lawfully through the court system.
Well, you've completely freaked me out. I gotta say.
Well, hey, People always talk about the crazy stuff I said before that I meant. Everything I just told you is not even hidden. You're gonna be like, what, human clones for 30 years spliced with animals? And they're splicing humans with fish, with lizards, everything else. It's all public.
Well, so that's why it freaks me out, because I know you're telling the truth.
But I'm still stuck on the spider. We've been drinking spider milk.
No, they've got goats that are only like.
Al Gore used to talk about that. He would say we have the orb spiders.
Yeah, look up spider goats. They've got goats declassified for 30 years in Tennessee, New York, all over, for classified body armor.
No, it's real.
That the milk creates the spider web filaments, and it's like literally like Spider-Man, and then you can have like a quarter-inch body armor of it, and high-caliber rounds just bounce off.
So you gotta wonder why people are doing this, but the truth is American taxpayers are paying for it, just like they paid for the development of the COVID virus, actually, in the Wuhan lab, and AI, and all of this stuff is being paid for by us. And doesn't seem to be any effort at all. We're sort of sitting there watching the truck approach us at a high speed, about to get flattened. Why aren't our lawmakers saying, I'm sorry, we're defunding NIH, we're not doing this, or we're defunding DARPA, or whatever? Why doesn't anyone try to stop it?
Well, you know this better than you. You grew up in D.C., been around it. They get some little corrupt local politician, they promote him to mayor, they promote him to state rep, they promote him to Congress, they promote him to the Senate, they promote him to the presidency, and all they want is a few gold bars and hookers and a private jet. They just read what they're told to off a teleprompter. They're total puppets. There's no real statesmen. So the statesmen like Massey and Paul and others, they try to shut down, they try to shoot, they try to kill. And you get a good old American like Trump, who loves the human system, loves his kids, loves his family, loves his grandkids, loves his golf courses, and he's like, we're gonna get rid of this? I don't wanna kill all the people, I like them. And so it's gonna be the pro-human future, team humanity that I talked about with Elon Musk. He agreed, I said, should we call it team humanity? And he said, yes, on air. It's team humanity versus team dehumanization towards team death. It's team humanity versus team annihilation, team mad scientists. And at the top of the food chain of the New World Order are these old, degenerate, inbred, crazy families with King Charles right at the head of it, total eugenicist, just like his dad, wanted to come back as a virus to kill 80% of the world population. Prince Philip, you've got those horrible, disgusting people and all the big banks below them, and then the mad scientists that are there offering life extension and all this to these elites are the real people controlling it. They're the technocrats that are bringing this system in, and we're like an old school or an old church. They just like demolish it, wipe it out. These people, they want too much. They want their freedoms. Just kill them because they believe they have to have a world government to stop nuclear war, but then they proliferate the nuclear weapons themselves. Oh, they've got to have a world government to stop a bio attack, but then they release the bio attack. And so their excuse is, well, this technology is too dangerous. We've got to have a smaller, more manageable world population so we don't all kill each other. But then they're the ones that actually like to kill people. They're the ones that are actually the bad people. They're the ones that have to be removed from power and have the keys of control of society taken away from them. But first, it's kind of like Thanksgiving, where the parents are over at the big table and the kids are over here picking their nose at the little table. They see us as like little kids. We got to go over to the adult table and read what they're writing and saying because they're so arrogant. I've read hundreds of books and thousands of white papers where they openly say, humans are a failed species. We're going to get rid of them. The future's not human. You've all know Harari and others. And they're literally talking about exterminating us. And if we don't stand up to them, then in a way we actually deserve it. But our children don't deserve it. So you need to research how evil your enemy is. Because to defeat your enemy, you got to know who your enemy is. And your enemy is the globalist, transhumanist, New World Order.
So I wonder, I agree with that. So what you're saying, you've just risen right above American politics, even global politics, and you're addressing the deep forces that control things. I wonder, Jack, since you do cover American politics, are there any politicians who are seeing what's going on right now in terms that big?
There is one guy, but I wouldn't call him a politician. His name's Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
So
I will say though, no, I don't know that there's anyone who looks at it that level, because there's most politicians, they have their timelines of, when do I get reelected? I got to raise more money. I'm going to go get reelected again. Constantly come to this fund. Hey, I'm sure you get invited all the time. Hey, Tucker, come to my fundraiser. Hey, come in, help me raise some money. I got to raise money. I'm running. And they're not thinking about what's happening. And then I see Donald Trump get up there with his children, with his grandchildren that he brings up to his rallies. After he's taken shots at his rallies, still brings his grandchildren up there and said, you want me? I'm right here. Come take it. Come after me. I'm not moving. And that's why, like for me, and folks, it's got to be us. It's got to be the people in this room 10xing your vote, 10xing your ballots, getting active, and look at me, look what I did. I'm just a kid from Norristown, but I said, fine, if I'm going to go back home, I'm going to bring Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones with me.
Thank you, by the way.
Well, thank you.
I like the way that Alex described Trump, because I think it's true. The key to Trump is not just the ideas. He's not an ideologue, really. No. Trump likes people on an animal level. He just likes people. You see it when he's at McDonald's. You see it at every rally. He just has a gut level affection for people that is so different from when I watch Nancy Pelosi or that weird creepy little guy who's the Republican speaker right now. Like they seem like, when they talk, people are the problem. But Trump feels like, well, I just like people. I kind of like, put my arm around them. I like the way they smell. I like people.
Trump comes from a hospitality family.
Yes.
And so his dad, from the time he was 6 years old, would leave him in the summer all day at a building site. And I'm going to tell a story. I've harped on this a lot because it's a microcosm. It's like a skeleton key or a Rosetta Stone. If you understand this, it's like looking through a keyhole, you see the larger universe. On Mother's Day this year, the evil New York Senator, Chucky Schumer, put out a post on X, a post on Twitter, and you can pull it up, and he said, I'm basically quoting it exactly because I've quoted it so much. He says, I want to wish everybody a great Mother's Day. My daughter and her wife had me over to their house to grill. He called it barbecue, but he said, this is wonderful. For multiple generations, we've always been in high-rises and have never had a backyard or cooked meat. And I was thinking, oh, that's human. That's nice. Maybe he'll become a human. And then I looked at the grill, and it was fresh patties with a piece of cheese on it, and he's trying to serve a raw hamburger. Okay, so the point is, so many of these ultra-rich people and elitists and other poor kids that grow up in the city, who are impoverished as well, they literally grow up in a tiny little room with a television and crime all around them and all this crap going on and sirens, and they've never been out in the woods. They've never been fishing. They've never been out to the desert. They've never traveled the world. They've never ever had a real job. They've never anything. And if you look at the politicians, and Democrats particularly, they are not connected to reality. So to them, everything human is scary. They want sanitized, shrunken. I mean, if you look at Democrat Party politicians, they look like a demonic spider sucked their life force out. So these are...
Wait, I'm sorry, I want you to stop. When you look at a Democratic politician, they look like a demonic spider sucked their life force out. I just want to acknowledge that as a great description.
And you've been around them in person, so have I. I mean, the vibes, 20 feet from Hillary, you repel. It's up there like jack-o'-lantern. I can't make face. I mean, horrifying, and they're slithering around, and I mean, it's like, and then God bless her soul, Sheila Jackson Lee or whatever just died. Before she did, she gets up and she goes, I saw that eclipse. It almost burned up the moon. We know the sun's the same size of the moon, and the moon is hollow and glows. A lot of them aren't even evil, but they're dumber than hell. And the globalists are counting on that. But look, knowledge is infectious. How the world works is infectious. They don't want people to get excited about knowledge. And once you do, it's addicting. And people ask me all the time, what do we tell young people to do? The opposite of what Hollywood tells you. Anything Democrats tell you, anything politicians say that are leftist, anything Hollywood says, anything BlackRock funds, it's simple. It's like somebody handing you cyanide or fentanyl. Don't take it, don't get near it, and just love your family, be strong. Don't feel bad because you don't have a bunch of money. Don't feel bad because your truck isn't new. Don't feel bad. No, you've got a soul and you love God, you love your country, you love your family, and you are a trillion times richer than people like Zuckerberg and the rest of them. So be confident, and know you were born to be in this time, and you've been under covert globalist attack, but you're not a victim, you're not a loser. You are the sleeping giant that now has awoken, and our enemies are afraid, and they should be afraid.
So Jack.
Well, you know what's interesting, real quick, is that people say, Alex, oh, that's crazy. That could never be real. We could never live in a country like that. That would never happen. And then all of a sudden, Oprah Winfrey is doing these infomercials with Kamala Harris. Hold on. Right after the FBI seized all of the P. Diddy tapes that Oprah is on from the parties that he was holding. And so I used to think that, we got to protect Trump, we got to keep him safe, Now I realize there's somebody else we got to keep safe. We've got to keep Diddy safe, because that's the next guy.
Oh, they're going to Epstein him. Exactly.
They're going to go for. This guy could tell if you want to know how your government actually works, that's the guy we got to talk to. Tucker, I don't know, maybe you have an in. Could you get Diddy on the tour, maybe? No, I'm serious. This is how they run the government, though.
He's
this
definitely
is how it works.
another Epstein operation.
This is how, there's an Epstein operation, and there's a Diddy. He's the Black Epstein, okay? He's just the Black Epstein. He just is.
I mean,
all right?
I gotta be
the
honest.
same groups behind Epstein are behind Diddy, and
the
they
question
just rolled
is,
him
because
up.
people would say, how is it that so many of our world leaders have gone to an island such as that, right? And they say, how could this have happened? How could it be such an open secret? And then when it happens, people come out, and Bill Gates again, by the way, and suddenly people say, oh, we all knew there was stuff about Jeff. What do you mean you all knew about this? What do you mean you knew about this kind of stuff? And you realize we're looking at it backwards. In order to become a world leader, you have to go to the island. In order to become a celebrity, you have to go to the Diddy party. This is the way their system works. It's a rite of initiation.
Absolutely, and that's what I've explained. Just like different mafias, you have to kill somebody so they have dirt on you. They know they're going to be videotaped doing illegal things so they can get in the gang. It is the initiation ceremony.
There once was a guy who actually infiltrated a certain initiation place called the Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, well, the point is, old-fashioned time with the Republicans, that was the way to compromise them. Like, well, hey, you want to join this particular Republican club, you got to do this. And Ronald Reagan and Nixon refused. That's well known. But that's because that's how you get Republicans. Hey, we'll tell your constituents you're sucking, you know what? But for the Democrats and some Republicans like Hastert, it's like, hey, do you know that girl at that party? She was 16. Next, it's go in there with that 12-year-old girl, or you're not in the club. And the next, it's like, that 8-year-old, go in there and strangle her, we're gonna kill you. And let me tell you, they're not just raping kids. At Epstein Island and stuff, and I talked about it 15 years ago, first talk about it, they're killing kids, ladies and gentlemen. So they're only talking about 15-year-old girls, that they kill them.
So can I just ask you to assess my last question to you, Alex Jones, is I'm not really sure how Kamala Harris became the Democratic nominee, went in like one day from being someone everybody made fun of to being the most heroic figure in human history. I'm still kind of bewildered by it, but I would be interested in your take on Kamala Harris. Who is Kamala Harris and how'd she get here?
That's a great question. Well, Kamala Harris got the same amount of votes in the primaries as Ronald McDonald, which is 0. Kamala Harris is a soulless, truly empty flesh bag who was admittedly a sex operative, just like Oprah Winfrey admitted that she was an underage sex slave. I mean, look it up, it's all true.
And you can find Oprah giving the girls to Weinstein.
Yeah,
you can see the pictures.
And Oprah's admitted, and she's a victim of it. A lot of the victims of it become the victimizers. She said that she was an underage prostitute. I think it was in Chicago. But to answer the question, it's clear that Kamala Harris was a political sex operative. Willie Brown's talked about it, all of it. And then she was so soulless and would put innocent people in prison, know they were innocent on death row, do home invasions looking for legal guns, saying she'd do it. Then when she was the attorney general, she would put pro-lifers that exposed the illegal killing of babies right at 9 months when they were already born and the selling of their organs, including still beating baby hearts. She would put the journalist in jail for many years. That's her famous cases. So the system has seen her, has passed her around. They know she's super stupid, and they can bring her in like Biden and then blame everything that bad happens on her. And so she is the greatest example of a mindless puppet that they want to put in to further demoralize us to think that that's America, to make America a further joke around the world. So that's who Kamala Harris is, a clear and present danger and a meat puppet.
Is Pennsylvania going to vote for Kamala Harris?
Alex, is Pennsylvania going to vote for Kamala Harris?
Look, if we had a free and fair election, it'd be like the Reagan in '86. Trump would get 49 states. But because of the mass fraud in states, once Democrats get control of your voting system, since the 90s, it's very hard to turn it back. I know Pennsylvania's tried to tighten up some things, and Texas has taken millions of dead people and illegals off the voting rolls, and so has Nevada's taken hundreds of thousands off. So look, the evidence, it's a long story, but Trump won in a landslide in 2016, barely won. People thought he was invincible and he's going to win no problem in 2000, so he barely won, so they were able to steal it. He's going to have a bigger landslide in 42 days than he did in 2016. That's why they've tried to kill him twice now, and probably more times we're being told we don't know about.
If he was losing, the assassination attempts would be unnecessary.
Absolutely.
That's why the assassination attempts are happening. That's why there's 5 kill teams.
So what, and I'll let you take us out on this on a note of hope, what you said, you gave advice for what children should be doing. What should the people in this room be doing? What should be their attitude, not just for the next 42 days, but for the next year? And what can people do?
Okay, well, I never claim to be some saint or, tell people how to live their lives. I'm definitely not perfect. But I'll tell you what I've been doing since I was at least 18 years old. And I became a Christian before that, but it was like I'm a Christian, but I really wasn't truly born again. You got to get on your knees in the morning before, or in the middle of the night, or whenever you wake up. You got to get on your knees. You got to and tell God, I can't do this. I need you to come into me and take control and lead God and direct me and tell me what to do. And you've got to change your values to where you don't care what the world says or what the system says. You care to do what the conscience that God gave you, that guardian angel that is right there looking over your shoulder, tells you to do. And you've got to not be a coward, and you've got to be strong. And the minute you step across that point, you don't even have courage anymore. You're on a mission, and you're not possessed by the Holy Spirit, but you let it in, and it's now driving and in control. And now you got God behind you, and nobody can stand against us if God's with us.
Well, that is a hopeful note, and I think that's true. And with that, Alex Jones, Jack Posobiec, I'm proud to be friends with both of you.
Thank you, Tucker.
Got a little gift for you guys. A little gift. One for Tucker. One for Alex.
Tucker.
For you, brother.
I love Tucker. I love Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pennsylvania.
The big tech companies censor our content. I hate to tell you that it's still going on in 2024, but you know what they can't censor? Live events. And that's why we are hitting the road on a fall tour for the entire month of September, coast to coast. We will be in cities across the United States. We'll be in Fort Worth, Texas with Roseanne Barr, Greenville, South Carolina with Marjorie Taylor Greene, Sunrise, Florida with John Rich, Jacksonville, Florida with Donald Trump Jr. You can get tickets at tuckercarlson.com. Hope to see you there.